Kishore Rajgopal, thank you so much for being here today. Welcome to the Distro Boss Podcast. I've been looking forward to speak to you because there's a couple of reasons which we're going to get into real soon, and it's definitely to do with your business model and the underlying technology behind it. Your company is Rapidious. You've got a use case for it under the name of the brand name of Titan AI, and I know you have a couple of things cooking in, like a couple of other buns in the oven. We're going to get into those, but listen. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Raj. Thank you for having me. The entrepreneur's heart story is one of the most important things they want to share, right? It's not necessarily all sexy and all rosy. It's just ups and downs. And that's what we're going to do here, right? Celebrate all of the ups and downs.
Yeah, that's it, because there are plenty of ups and downs. I mean, there are plenty of bodies on the ground in the pursuit of money, especially on the road, to entrepreneurship. It's a solo sport to begin with. And then as soon as you start to expand and you got different personalities to deal with, like the more meatware behind the hardware you require, over and top the monies that you need to spend on just building out your dream project or dream business, things can befall everybody, and it's not always a rosy picture, man. Like, for the most part, I mean, people like to just talk the statistics, like, 99% of businesses fail, but the truth is, like with any statistic, no one just wants to be a statistic. Everyone's got a story. Okay, there's a reason why they failed, and sometimes it's not the business itself or the plan, and sometimes it's the partners, sometimes it's the staff, sometimes it's other factors, but there's so many variables. But yeah, so Titan AI, Rapidious. Why don't you tell everyone what it is that the company does, what the underlying technology does, because that's what really caught my eye when we connected.
The underlying technology, Rapidious.ai, that I've been working on the last 3 years, uses a variety of information from the business, combines it with external factors. There's local events, national events, there's rainfall, there's food away from home indices, there's buying indices, there's traffic indices. You combine all of them, income, not to talk of, that's most important, by zip code, by block group. What's the income levels? What's the propensity to buy a home of $1.5 million? So you figure out all of that, and then you're saying this is likely the most optimal price for your products. This is where you will see demand, and this is the way you need to pitch them. That's the underlying technology, and we applied it to RVs, recreational vehicles in the US. It's a cool in thing, right? I don't want to stay in a home. I want to stay in a motorhome. I want to take a bath. I want to watch TV. I want to cook. I want to stay in an RV park. I'll work, and working from home. That's really cool, right? That's what enabled the RV culture. There are at least 2,200 dealers. There's 300,000 to 400,000 RVs on the road in the US. Helping dealers understand inventory, understand their pricing, help them close a sale. That's what we do in Titan AI. Helping RV dealers close a sale and RV customers get a good deal.
So that's the benefit. That's the end result. But the technology is looking at all these different data points and sort of collating them together and using some form of intelligence to price these things up, so that, and I'll share my experience with this, because this is the thing where we kind of overlap. And so once upon a time, I used to be in the parking business, in that I used to buy parking lots, and we would buy it with like investor funds, and investors would earn from each individual space in the parking lot. So for every space that we had, if there were 500 spaces, they'd earn from every single one, because each one is like a rented hotel room, right? Because each one will earn, provided there's a parking lot, a car park there. And the great thing about parking lots, unlike typical real estate, is that we always collect our rent, because if you don't pay your parking ticket, you don't get your car back. So it's not like, it's one of those very, very useful, one of those very, very, well, the cash flow with those businesses is very good, put it that way. Plus, the pricing on those parking the pricing on those parking spots is, well, it doesn't follow like real estate trends when it comes to like renting property. Like you can only increase the value, like the rental yield of a property, by say 1 or 2% per year. With a parking lot, if there's an event in town, you can jack the prices up, double the price if you want. There's no regulation on it. You can literally just put a signage on the outside and say, here's the new price. But evaluating that, and I remember pitching that time and time again to investors, I started to realize something like, hang on a sec. it is just a guessing game. We are just guessing because, we're just making an assumption that we can get away with price, charging $52 an hour in New York and then $142 for an exotic or $70 for an oversized, when the reality is there's nothing that really dictates that price apart from us and how we feel about it. And once we've set the prices and put them on the board, that's it. So we started to have this conversation about dynamic pricing. Like, how can we ensure that, this came from our investors. Like, how can you ensure that all your parking spaces are filled? And then we started looking at we started looking at dynamic pricing, and we didn't know how to really do that. And so we started to look into it a little bit further. And you look at the airline industry, who's pretty much invented dynamic pricing, right? They came up with an innovative way to make sure all the bums on seats in the planes, were filled. All the seats on the plane had a bum on seat, and they could make sure that they do that by pricing variably, which became known as dynamic pricing. And of course, it worked out very well for the airline industry. As we all know today, if you book an aircraft in advance, it's going to be cheaper. On the day, it gets more expensive. And it's not some person sitting behind a desk doing this. It's actually an algorithm that's figuring this out based on everything else that's going on, all these billions of data points. And then, of course, the hotel industry picked it up pretty quick too. You've got the hotel rooms, making sure maximum occupancy above 90%. Again, they're using pricing dynamic models, intertwined with every single marketplace and platform out there for selling hotel rooms. They all kind of feed into this algo. Now, we're thinking, well, why can't we do that with parking? And so we ended up meeting this guy from Airbnb. Actually, he had just left Airbnb. He actually built a pricing dynamic model where for the last 10 years, and he had built it into Airbnb's platform. And when you go on Airbnb, if you want to you want to list a spot, you notice how it gives you like pricing recommendations, like here's what you should be pricing your apartment at this time of the year today. And of course, they're using tons of different data points too, based on, is there a game in town? What are the flights doing? Is there a lot of people flying in? Is there a vacation? Is it holiday time? They start to look at all these different things, and that's like listing 5, but there are like 5 billion or 20 billion different data points that this thing's looking at. I don't know where you get this information, but that's what they're collating. And this was before AI was a buzzword, right? This was just algorithm, purpose-built, bespoke software, all this kind of stuff. And so anyway, long and short of it is that with our pricing model, with the parking lot, as great as enough an idea as it was, it didn't get anywhere only because we weren't able to do it. As a company, I couldn't figure it out. Like we were paying for it. We had something that kind of looked like it worked. We wanted to pilot it in our own parking lots and then distribute it out to other parking lots, around the world. But then you had to negotiate with all the other parking companies and their owners, and we just couldn't crack the egg, if you will. So that kind of died a death after being a black hole with a lot of money spent on it. So that was really where I came in. And then to see that you're now doing this with pricing of RV models. So this is looking at everything in terms of, like you said, a household income, people like job availability in the area. What other kind of points does it look at? Is it in the billions, or what's up with that?
That's a very, very interesting analogy with parking lots. And I was sort of very, really wanting to make the point about price elasticity. And you increase prices, but then the demand goes down, the occupancy or the thing being sought after, that sort of goes down. And if it's parking lot, the occupancy goes down, hotel rooms occupancy goes down, and so on. And if in the case of RVs, autos, the demand goes down, the number of people who want to come and see it goes down. So where is the balance? That's really what data scientists, or we can call them machine learning engineers, they put together all these factors and figure out elasticity of pricing. So you could increase prices, but beyond a point, you actually hurt yourself because the occupancy goes down and customer experience and customer intimacy goes down. It's like, why are they doing this? So this feeling that you guys are gypping us. So you don't want to be seen as a business that's being unfair. So you include all of that and saying, yes, you increase prices, but to a point where it makes sense and to a point where customers see it as okay. Now, let's get to the second part of the other part of your question. Is to build these models takes a lot of time and effort. So there's a business model that has to make it worth it. So you're pulling in all this data. You don't even know all of the data upfront. You keep experimenting. Oh, now I need this also. I need JD power pricing. I need by zip code by certain metrics. So I include more and more measures. At some point of time, you start getting it right. But you spend time building it, which means we need to have at least tens of thousands of customers to make a business out of it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean,
so if it's only for your business, then there's no ROI in doing it. But if there are similar businesses, and then hopefully there are thousands or tens of thousands, then the investment in that platform is worth it, because there are so many people buying it, and they're not going to pay a lot of money. They're going to pay a small amount of money every month, because that's the way it works. And to warrant that, you need so many more customers. Go ahead, Siddharth.
Yeah. I feel like that was like one of the biggest bugbears with us. It was like, how do we get past our own parking lot? Like, this is a great idea for us. Now we have to get this out to all these other places. And the other thing I'd like to ask you is, I mean, first of all, that's one part of the question is, okay, how do you now drive up adoption? Like, to get people to actually, when I say people, I mean companies, the dealerships themselves, to say, you know what, okay, we'll give it a crack. Because, they have this formula that they've been using for however long to price up their vehicles. And now they've got to contend with this new technology, which is poised to make sure that they can sell faster, more efficiently to the right people at the right time when they want to buy it. But it's like, how do you get them to kind of buy into that? Do they give you the time? Do you have a direct sales team that goes out?
So what we have done is, our early customers are also our evangelists. So we sort of request them, when we have a sales call, please be there for a period of time, explain to them how they do it. So it's not somebody who's unrelated to the industry who's pitching it, but somebody from the industry is also saying, hey, I've used it, I use it this way. And you ask them those questions. How often do you price your RVs? And the answer was, yeah, whenever we get some time. Okay, how do you reprice? What data do you use? Okay, now let's look at this inventory, and now I'm going to show you 5 competing inventories that are at least 20,000 more. Did you know it? Did you know that you will sell your inventory? Sure, you're missing out on profits. So you sort of bring out those data items, and they feel, oh man, I'm missing out on profits. Or if I'm pricing it too high, I'm missing out on conversions. So these are the things you need to explain to them, and they then start seeing value of it.
So they use to if I'm understanding correctly, you weren't having to go the traditional, let me get some business development executives to go out and start phone calling companies. You worked with someone who was within the industry, who is effectively someone of like a key person, someone who's of significant influence, a thought leader, or someone who's like known, has been part of the fabric of that industry. Is that what you said? As
Yes,
I understand it?
that's all. That's not to say that you don't need the sales guys calling in, the demos, the emailing, the campaigning, the brand. You need all of that. But having this person, having this depth, and he is, from our side, that makes a lot of difference.
The reason I kind of stuck on that point for a second there was because the truth is, that's part of my main business in terms of building distribution channels for companies. And I like to hear you say that, because a lot of companies or a lot of people don't recognize that is one of the most powerful ways to get your product sold, to get anything to get into business. Having somebody who already has access to the customers that you want, by leveraging the trust, faith, and relationships that they already have with a customer base, you're going to be that much closer to actually getting your business off the ground. And I think people, they get stuck in the trap of, I need to advertise, I need to hire salespeople, I need to work on these sales funnels, I've got Facebook ads, I've got to do YouTube videos, I've got to do all this kind of stuff. When it comes down to business, find out who already has access to your direct, your target buyers, and then work on figuring out how to leverage that relationship to sell the thing that you're trying to sell. And that's one of the things I wanted to just make a point of there, because it sounds like, you start that you're going to need a business development team. This isn't your end all be all, but it's certainly like the way to get started and the way to do those bigger deals, especially when it comes to the enterprise level or the multiple RV dealerships that will adopt this software or this offering at any given point. Otherwise you're doing it one by one. You're trying to hit them individually. I think I just wanted to make a point there. Okay, the next thing that I'm glad I didn't forget this, because I thought of this question about 10 minutes ago, but I didn't want to say it because you were in the middle of it. With this technology, when you're building this thing, and I'm guilty of this, especially with my own software that I built, you start to realize all the different applications of this kind of tech, right? But you've picked the RV market. Like, I know it's important, like to be a sensible businessman. It's good to say, I should say business person. It's good to say, we're going to test it in this particular market and make a go of it. But as you're building it and you start sharing the concept, the idea with other people, you do get people pulling you in different, it's just not people, it's your own thoughts are taking you in different directions. This can be applied here. This can be applied here. It can go there. And then you have a conversation with someone or a communication with someone, and you realize, oh, I could instant win this if I just go down that rabbit hole, and I could probably see some money before the end of the month. How do you stay focused on the RV market and just go the distance? And this goes to all those people out there who are building AI models right now and trying to figure out, because you're all going through it. I know you are. Anyone involved with machine learning or any kind of mass market software platform, they're trying to build it for one thing, but as you build it, you start realizing it works. You start to go different ways.
Example, inventory imbalance. So if there are dealers who have too much of a particular vehicle and those who need that. So if you can alert both of them and get them to sort of talk about it and maybe share inventory, that's another sort of a side benefit. The other thing is we have information of all the inventory of RVs in the US. Is there a way to do lead generation? Is there a way to feel out Google demand signals and figure out that somebody sitting in Austin wants a particular kind of vehicle and somebody in Arizona has it? So generate leads. So see, RVs is a national market, because for something more than $500,000, you don't mind flying from coast to coast to buy it. Unlike a car.
I mean, and those RVs, and for the people out there who don't realize this, because I know, I mentioned I was coming on this podcast with you, and in the UK, there's like this stigma with caravans, which is the RV here, right? They're like caravans, horrible things, right? Well, we're not talking about those nasty little white boxes that fall apart on the road. We're talking about those, coaches, these buses that are like super shiny, the big rims, inside look like a hotel room. We're talking about the big stuff here, like the really cool
ultra
stuff.
Ultra luxury. The last time I wanted to see how they use up. It's ultra luxury. The granite, the way it's done, the upholstery, the beds, the kitchens. It's ultra luxury. There's Wi-Fi, there's TVs.
There's straight up highway yachts.
Absolutely. It's really high end. And some of them are upward of $1 million. So why would they not be high end? Yeah. And then when you park, and it comes in when you're on the road. When you park in an RV park, some portions sort of go out and makes extra space for you.
It looks like a mobile home in the end. Yeah, it just the thing expands. Yeah, it is like the whole center of this thing will just expand out widthways, and suddenly you've got like a living room and a bedroom completely separated, and it's just like, hang on a sec. This guy's got the cheat code, and it's like, and I say that like they're highway yachts. I mean, you can't really. I don't think you could have those things in the UK because they're so small and tiny. The roads are all windy. It's like spaghetti junctions everywhere. But like in the US, where you've got those big old open roads, you can park those things everywhere. Gas stations are huge. They're massive, entryways you can get into. It works well there. And I remember when I went to the US, like. I wasn't too familiar with them, but when I started looking around, my wife was super into it, and she started showing me all these little RVs, like these, I say little RVs, the huge RVs, and you start seeing them in people's driveways as well, and people are just like super excited about getting it. So it is a massive market. You've got everything in the US, from the deserts through the, like the forests, and you've got the height, you've got the plains, and you've got the beach, and people can travel around, and they do, and that's the point. They do, and the market's huge for it. So yeah, I mean, I get that you have this massive market that you can penetrate. But did you say you had, or you haven't? Have you actually taken the technology and like licensed it out to other people? Are you considering doing that?
What we're doing now is really engaging partners to be able to open doors for us, communicate with RV networks, associations, and get us to speak to them saying, you manage your inventory better, you manage your turns better, you spend less money on this, and you spend more time with customers, you close faster. So it's really an association industry thing. That's what we're doing right now. And US is definitely the number one market. Canada is not far behind. It does have 333 RV dealerships. The US has about 2,000. So we are looking at Canada also.
Cool. And so you're not an RV business. You're a tech business, but you're gonna expand outwards in the RV sector. Okay. So what would you say then? Like, how far into this are you? How when was that conception, and where are you like now?
The last I would say August is when we conceived it. We built a version 1 of the platform. We rolled it out. Our early users, our early customer in San Antonio used it. He saw some benefit. He knew he was an evangelist. He's one of those power users, and he saw the benefit of it. He kept working with us to sort of improve it, make it production ready. Then we changed the UI, took it to the next level, spent some more money on the user experience, and took it to the next level. Early this year, we again piloted. We saw the use. We saw it's being used 2-3 hours on a daily basis by our users. March is when sort of we said, I think it's ready for prime time. We can start pitching it. We also started, we got our first sign up and our first check at that time. That's a good important milestone.
Oh yeah, like when you draw first blood. Yeah, absolutely. Like it's like the most important thing. Right. It's like whether you celebrate it openly and have pop some champagne bottles, or if it's like a quiet, nod between partners.
Quiet.
Yeah,
just quiet.
Yeah, that's a quiet nod between partners. We're on the right direction.
The woods are beautiful. The night is beautiful. It's deep, but we have a long way to go. So it's not time for celebration.
Yeah, how much? Speaking of like long way to go, like how much does something like this like cost? Were you able to self fund it, or did you have to get a ton of angel investors? Did you get seed funding of any sort? Like how did this thing come to? Yeah, how do you breathe life into it?
Dynamic pricing platform Rapidious. We are also part of an accelerator called Upeka, and they funded us $100K. It's a Delaware C corporation. They funded us $100K. And after that, it's really been self-funded. Me as a founder has been funding it. We are now on to raise $150K as a family and friends round to be able to support the growth and support some of the more advanced features.
All right. So how's so if like, what would you say is your biggest challenge then? Like when you're doing this, like, okay, if you look at your story and you're like, you've got this concept, you've got the funding, you've gone the distance, you're building this thing out, family, friends, self-funded. You've got to the point now, you've got this deal. And along that way, you had to build this very complex technology. Now, I know from building a pretty basic API-based software, like that was hard enough. So this thing is like everything's bespoke, tailor-made. You've got a very pretty looking website. The app I can see is very clean looking, user-friendly. There's a lot of brains behind that, and I know that there's a lot of experience behind that too. Like, what's your background? Like, how did you get? What was your background to be able to do this? And are you like a project manager in a sense, or can any entrepreneur kind of like whip something like this together? Is the point I'm getting to, because you got visionaries, and then you have people that execute in different siloed positions, right? And if you're looking at like this entrepreneurial journey, it's like, what kind of meatware do you need to get something like this off the ground? Like, who do you have to go to? Where do you even go to find people who have the experience to build a dynamic pricing model like this? You know what I mean?
Okay, so Raj, a little bit about myself. I lived in Dallas, Texas. I worked with an Indian IT services company, Infosys. I built retail tech consulting. I built things around analytics.
Infosys, you said that little old company. Infosys.
Infosys is huge. Now it's huge.
Yeah,
I guess. Thereafter, my entrepreneurship life started. Last 12 years, I've really been building companies. So I've built 5 companies. 2 of them have been reasonably successful. 3 of them have been wonderful failures. Learned a lot. So what I do is build. I inspire team members, and I build tech. Those come easily to me. What I don't do as well is selling and making sure that you have the ideas and the ingredients for selling a priori. How do you sell? How do you scale? How do you really take it to the next level? What homogeneity do you need? You can build one, but if you're going to build the second and the third in different ways, you're not going to sail. You're not going to really be profitable because every one of them will be different. So thinking through that a priori. So we last August when we said we have all this, how do we really address a homogeneous sector? And then we were having some conversations, and we found that there's this company called Market Check, and they suggested we look at RV. The RV market is an underserved. You have to look for an underserved or an unserved market. Or if you're looking at a bigger market, you have to look for an underserved niche. So we thought this was a good niche to begin with. Is it VC investable in size? Probably not, because they think it's a smaller one. So then you have to get to the auto segment in the US. The auto segment is very competitive. You have to find a niche. The niche there is the independent auto dealer, right? Because you have a lot of enterprise players who don't play there. So those are the ideas we have in mind as to, and then we said, now with this, let's quickly start building the tech. We know how to build tech. We know how to build. I mean, that's our basic DNA from. So that was the easier part. Pitching it and taking it to people is the one that that's what we have to get through the next several months. Scale, pitch it to more people, tell the story, get them to start using it. We give 4 weeks of free trial anyway, so they get used to it.
Well, yeah. I mean, you mentioned something there that I just took a note on as you were speaking. I actually took 2 notes here. There's 2 things that you said. First of all, you said wonderful failures. I love that because it's true. Like you have to look at like when pursue a business, when businesses don't work out, you can't think, oh, I failed. You got to think like that. That was beautiful to hear. A wonderful failure kind of keeps you like you say things like my most important mistake. It's like to play on words to make sure that you look at it in the right light because you're meant to learn from it. It's meant to be an experience, and I like that. Any notable wonderful failures that you want to share?
All of them are notable, wonderful. The company of mine where I did demand for
like the most wonderful.
and we felt we said we want to be all across the world, and then we sort of had clients in Spain and Dubai and Singapore, but we didn't have homogeneity, so the scaling was difficult. Right? Then in terms of integrations, you got to integrate and make sure you're easy to bring in. Then the confusion between enterprise and mid-market. Enterprise selling is so much heavyweight, is so consultative. It's really, you've got to spend a lot of time with customers. There's a lot of relationship building there. Mid-market this is what we're going to do, this is a fee. So when you try to go across, that's a disaster. So you've got to have one DNA and replicate that.
Yeah.
Not coming to the US, and I lived here, I knew this is the largest market. I should have focused on the US. I think focus. Just if you're saying US is a market, just focus there instead of saying Spain and all that. And other countries also have potential. Then you should just focus only on those and mind those countries deeply. But if you do a little bit of all over, then you are spreading yourself too thin. So I think spreading yourself too thin, not having the scale and the homogeneity built upfront to scale, those are some of the mistakes we've made. It's an interesting project, take it on and build something. No, you don't do that. You look at things a priori and build and then go and scale.
Right. I see that. Focus, like niche down, narrow down, build your foundation, and then kind of build up. And
yeah.
I guess I didn't work out there, but that's what you've kind of learned from is what you're applying here. It kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier in the conversation about ensuring that you stay focused on the one sector. There are plenty of other applications and opportunities, but it's about like you're saying, like you're joint venturing or you're partnering where it's not taking you away from your core business, but like another company can kind of take on the tech and kind of go down that road. You'll earn from it, but you don't have to focus your marketing efforts, your brain power. You're not having to do that. I get that. I think that's a really smart thing to do. Well, the other question I came up with was, as you were talking about the independent dealerships that are dotted around the US, and there are a lot of them. But then, every year you're noticing more and more online, options for dealerships, right? And they're always saying, and they really are, and I'll say this frankly, they're shitting on car dealerships, right? They're basically saying, you don't want to deal with the dodgy salesperson, you don't want to have to, and they're really saying, go online and tell us what car you want, and then we'll have it delivered to your door. And I know this is predominantly for the car market. It's not as easy to just deliver an RV. They're a little large, but there are some limiting factors to how those businesses could take on the RV market. But obviously these things are a threat. They've started, they're coming up. You have a model that works well with a physical location, but then once you have a web platform, your model will still work, but it will be one web platform. It will be like the brains behind it, and it will be all encompassing, right? So how do you deal with that kind of a business threat down the road? Or do you think that you're still insulated for a while for you to ramp up, Steve?
No, I'm not sure that we are focused only on the physical dealership market. All dealerships have online presence. The question is,
That's
are
true.
you using the online presence to sell better? Do you have the right prices there? Let me give you another example. And this RV wasn't selling for 2 months. So what we did is accurately describe it in SEO friendly ways and push that description out to your website. It sold in 4 days. So my point is your web presence has to be powerful enough, has to be built for selling it, whether it's SEO optimized, whether it's Google optimized, or whether you're running campaigns, and whether it's pricing. So the
difference between a sales associate just quickly tapping out a product description and putting it online compared to your team actually working the SEO, knowing exactly what to write so that it gets picked up properly on the internet.
Exactly. So I wouldn't at all say that the online presence is something that's something which is a competition. We work with them. Any which way, dealerships have to work with online. People approach them online. They do their research online. Then they come to a dealership. Nobody goes. Gone are the days somebody just walks into a dealership. They do their what's your inventory? What do you have? Do you have what I'm looking for? Set on the price range. Okay, then I'll walk in and I'll still pretend as if I've not done my research. And then once I get the car, but online the price was this much. Okay, we'll give you the online price, right? So online is certainly something that's part of optimizing.
You're right. Yeah, I find that a lot of people, I actually remember a conversation where a dealer was saying, everyone that you see in here is buying a car. I'm like, so no one's window shopping? He goes, no, because they've done their research before they came here.
Exactly.
They know they're all buyers. They're all coming here to buy. They just don't know. They just want us to sell them on it now. They just want to feel that they want the 5-star treatment. They want me to pop open the champagne bottle when they pick it up. They want to feel like they were sold to. But they already know pretty much what they want. All we're really going to do is upsell them on some upholstery perhaps, or maybe the sport model or something if we have an in-house payment option that wasn't available online.
Yeah, a good payment option. Yeah, a good, just courtesy. Courtesy helps. Being nice to people, making sure that when they arrive in, they are greeted, and then you take them around, you show them the place. Overly pressuring them doesn't help. You have to attend to them, but overdoing the pressure doesn't help. So you make sure they're taken care, and that their needs, what they're looking for. What's their intent? What do you want to accomplish? Are you replacing? Are you trading in something? Are you buying in something new for your son or your daughter? And are you going to work? Are you going to relax? Are you going to be driving in the mountains, or have you had a crash and you want to replace that with a new car? So you got to understand that.
Yeah. Well, let me go back a ton of steps here to because I'm curious, because what you're building here is a really, really interesting, and you've really thought it out, and you've got all these different sort of directions it could take, but you're kind of accommodating for it, especially when I'm talking about the online space. When you why did you decide to take on a business? There are different types of businesses out there, right? There's opening up a pretty small restaurant for street facing, which actually is super complex, and I would never even dream of doing it. But it's considered a smaller business, right? Then or I'm going to sell e-commerce. I'm going to sell something online. So it's a bit more of a direct to consumer thing, or a B2B sort of software platform. What made you go down this road and pick up such a large kind of like disruptive trend setting? Like what made you go do this? Because the fact is you could have picked an easier one.
So Raj, there are no answers to this. It's like saying, why are you doing what you're doing? There's just no answers. Every startup that I did was just happened. I mean, my wife is starting up. She's just started up a company called Atmik, wherein it's a presentation coach, a co-pilot. So you have an app, you download it, you speak to it, and it coaches you. You're using too many filler words. You're saying to me, you're not speaking directly or whatever it is. It coaches you. Now,
I'm totally guilty of all that.
Why are you doing this? I don't know. I mean, you just there, you thought of it, you tried it, you built a POC, it worked out. So if you ask me why we're doing it, I just don't know. I think the only rational answer is, I went through various choices available. Should I do fashion? Should I do D2C? Should I do just a plug into SAP? We're an SAP partner. I could have said, I'll just do SAP. Should I do shows or should I do RVs? And we went through all of this. The right thing happened at the right time. We just started doing it. That's just the explanation. Nothing much more than that. It's not a very logical, like, I've looked through 7 alternatives. This is the best, and I'm going to do it. A very logically thought through. No, it just happened.
Yeah. Well, I'm always interested in asking that question because it's like I speak to so many people where like there's this like I want to change the world mentality, or it's just look, I just can't help myself. I come up with an idea and that's it. I'm like a dog with a scent. I'm a hound with a scent. I need to just go chase this as best I can to kind of build it out to the best of my capacity, and just it's going to work. I want to make it work through sheer force of will. Or you get people that are like, I just want to do it for the fun of it, like I think it's interesting enough to do. It'll occupy my time. I know I can make enough money to live off it. There's so many different types of personalities out there in the world of in as entrepreneurs. And then you got people out there who are like they're more on the desperate side. Like they need to do this because they hate their life. They need to quit the job, the 9 to 5, and like they have to build their own thing. And so they're kind of scrapping around looking for an idea. I find that's also a bit of a sad story, but that's a true story for a lot of people. They're just they want to just stop doing something, and then they go ahead and they just build something for the sake of it because they don't have to have a boss anymore. They get to quit their job and say they're doing something better. Yeah. That is initially perceived as like a status increase, right? Because they have their own thing. It's a good pat on the back. It's like, well, good for you. Question is, are you going to make some money on it? But that conversation comes later, right? In the beginning, everyone's happy and giving you the applause, like, good job. Yeah. So what's in the future? Like, do you have any like specific milestones that you're like working toward? Like, here's how we're going to make 100 million and we're going to do it like this. Or do you have anything like that? Are you looking for an exit? Are you looking to be acquired? Like, what's your game plan as a businessman? Because that's another thing. It's how people start, and then there's how people exit it too.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and these kind of tech businesses, we build and we keep running if and there's always growth. At least my approach is, I don't look for exits, but if it happens, then I'm not close to it. I mean, honestly, Savraj, I'll share this. In my second startup, we built this entire platform to mitigate, measure, calibrate out of stock in the retail industry, grocery industry in the US. 0 customers, 0 revenue. We built it almost a year and a half, a lot of research and a lot of things embedded. And a party came and they wanted to acquire it and integrate it into their startup and grow it. And then again, exited another one. And oh my God, this is too early. We don't have any customers. And wrongly so, we rejected the offer. But, we had acquired, we would have gotten an opportunity to work with a whole lot of retailers, take the tech to a new level. And the whole thing again would have gotten acquired by another company. So yeah, I'm cognizant that we need to be humble in our journey. So having said that, yeah, I think we want to keep growing. We want to keep delighting customers, adding features. We don't want to just stay put where we want to add features, Gen AI based querying. We want to add more data elements to it, more powerful queries, more powerful drill downs we want. And yeah, more customers who use what we do, give them any more white glove. I mean, some of them may have very custom, very proprietary analytics they want built. Yeah, we would do that for them.
Yeah.
And then manufacturers. There's at least 15 RV manufacturers and many more auto manufacturers. Just pitch it to them saying, this is where your cars are across the country. These are the prices. These are the discounts being given.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, okay, like it's like you're going to stick at it, but like, but you are open to being acquired. Is that what you said there? Just so I understand.
At the right time. At the right time. Right now,
at the right time.
Starting
Yeah.
off its journey. But
stay humble, build it. Build it up as best you can, and if someone comes in with a really big number, don't say no.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, the technology is like it's like it's moving at such a rapid pace. Like, are you plugging into like? I know some people are probably listening to this, like, oh, what was he doing? Plugging into OpenAI? Are you plugging into a pre-existing? Like, this is all like internal. Like, you machine learning is something that you've created internally, the algorithm, the way it thinks, if you will, how it allocates pricing, the logic behind it, or are you plugging into one of the APIs out there?
No, we are not plugging into OpenAI. We build our own proprietary machine learning and AI algorithms. We may use an LLM going forward for some of the more sophisticated querying, but that will be our LLM. It'll be our large language model, so to speak, specialized for the RV sector. But we're not going to be plugging into OpenAI. No.
Yeah. And I think when people hear LLM, a lot of that, and I'm talking about the novice entrepreneur here. I'm speaking to the person who's just kind of maybe just graduated, doesn't fully understand AI, or in a job and now wants to get involved. You don't have to be friggin' Microsoft to build your own AI. Like, these LLMs can be built in pretty short order and on a small scale, and you can actually bring them into.
That's a trend going forward, that you would have specialized LLMs, LLM for auto, LLM for legal, LLM for healthcare, obviously, LLM for insurance, LLM for travel. You have specialized LLM built on top of the more foundational LLM, and you may require that the data will not go back to the more generic pool, because this data is my IP. So I don't want the data to go out and anybody to be able to query.
Well, you've got cybersecurity stuff as well, association with that. Like, if you can have this wall garden that you can create, it's like, do you want all of your interactions being sent to a server that's owned by Google with Gemini, or, Microsoft or OpenAI, like, well, both of them, I think they're together. Like, do you want this thing do you want it to be localized with you? And I think companies are going to see a lot of value with that, like, they have their internal algo, they have their internal decision-making process that's powered by AI. It's a very strong situation. It's like when people first had their own internet websites, right? The websites on the internet. It's like, we have our own intranet. Do you remember that? Like, our own closed garden. Like, that was like a big thing. Yeah. And so I think that's happening now. You're starting to see that everyone wants a little bit of ownership in the world of AI. And I think, you're definitely leading the charge on it. Lots of other companies are right there with you, but like, equally, there's a lot of companies out there doing the same thing with the internet boom. It's like just watching on the sidelines. Like, you need to get involved. Like, I'm looking at it myself with my own software. Like, how do I build in AI to do what? Like, thinking about one of the things that's been like sitting on my mind as we've been talking about dynamic pricing. I'm like, well, one thing is with the way in which people interact or engage influencers to promote things. It's like, influencers, much like those parking prices, are just made up numbers. You have 5,000 followers, so you think you should get paid $500. There's nothing that really defines the price point. It's just everyone's just kind of guessing and making assumptions. So maybe there's a way we could create a marketplace that dynamically prices like a shout out, what an Omni post would look like multi-platform posting. Maybe that's an interesting way to go. Because that will at least kind of like level out the playing field a little bit. Stop getting these jokers coming up with any price points they want.
Yeah. That's a wonderful idea. Being able to sort of enumerate all of these influencers, categorize them by, various, is this a cricket
How many
brand? Is
fake
this
followers do you have? What's your ratio between male and female for what kind of product you're hoping to promote? Like if I'm trying to sell, you might have 500,000 followers, but they're 75% female. I'm trying to sell, I don't know, some yoked up bodybuilding stuff that is, really geared towards dudes. Like, it's like, even though you have that huge following, I don't want you promoting whatever this is. So that's
excellent.
how do you automatically do that without having the conversation?
Yeah. To being able to target the right influencers. If this is what I want, if this is a special supplementary powder that I'm selling to gymnasts, and who are the influencers I can go to any influencer and the influencer say, I can do it for you. This is my price. Is that the right influencer at all? Is that the good use of my money? That's an excellent business idea, Savraj.
I mean, this is one of those things. Like, imagine just turning on if you've got a somewhat following, you turned your phone on, you went in, and it gave you an instant option. Do you want to select any of these 5 options to promote? If you click promote one of them, you'll get instantly paid like X amount of money. So you don't have to go and get sponsorship. You don't have to go and build an audience and hope someone contacts you. Or as an entrepreneur, you don't have to go and reach out to an influencer. You could have something that's kind of pre-built that kind of, you turn it on and ping, you're at this many followers, you've just fit the criteria for this company, they're willing to pay X based on these stats that you have, accept or not. Imagine that.
Excellent. Excellent idea.
That's
I think categorizing, understanding influencers worldwide, and figuring out based on the product or service and the audience and the profile that you want to target, these are the influencers you need to look at, and budget also, and timeframes and availability, because they're influencers who get overbooked. All right, and you don't want to.
Well, they're subject to exclusivity clauses. They can only promote one thing at a time, or you're a brand ambassador for X company now, and now you're stuck with them for the next 12 months. Some of these guys they sign a contract, they don't even know what they're signing. It's a really a human focused industry, but that it's so messy. It's perfect for this kind of machine learning and this kind of dynamic pricing, because it all revolves around that. They're either buying something or something's being sold through them. Like they're selling something for somebody else, and that's the direction everybody's going. It's like this, as soon as they gave everybody the opportunity to self-publish, it completely changed the game. Completely. All right. Hey, listen, I know we're getting close to that time. I do want to ask you this, because I get to this kind of stage where I just start freeballing, because I like to just talk with people who are really in the mix, who are building their businesses, who are at the early stages. The conversations are so fun. But look, that's just really me being very selfish. What would you say to somebody else who's like the younger entrepreneur? And I say young, I don't mean age-wise. I mean, someone new to jumping out of their 9-to-5, who's thinking about quitting and going it alone, has a good idea, maybe, thinks they have a good idea at least, but hasn't committed to actually going the distance. Like, what kind of advice would you give as far as a play-by-play? Like, how would you, what kind of recommendations, if any?
No secret sauce. I mean, just get the idea validated, speak to people, validate the pain. Don't be in the.
And when you say validate, what do you mean? Just ask people what they think, or do you mean anything more like anything more specific, like do surveys or field what do you mean when you say validate?
Yeah. One of the things that we learned from our current accelerator, Upeka, is this whole emphasis on deeply understanding what the customer needs. And if you ask them, would you need this? They say, yeah, sure. Would you pay this much? Sure. Here's the bill. Would you pay it? You see what I'm saying? So we should all read this book, The Mom Test. And that's when I learned that you can't directly...
The Mom Test?
Yeah, The Mom Test.
Okay, I'm writing that down.
Yeah. And
see, I need to read this, because
please.
Time and time again, have I created a software or a platform or something? I've asked people, would you pay for this? Would you pay for this? They say, yes, yes, yes. And I build something so complex in the end that when I show it to them, they're like, yeah, this is great. How do I use it? And then when I show them, and it's like, well, this feels like a lot of hard work, and then they don't pay. But like, so the mom test, so validation through getting the yes, but also making sure they will actually pay
Yeah.
for it.
You ask the right questions to find out, is there a real pain? Is there something of genuine value we're building? And would somebody be willing to pay for it? It comes from experience of the entrepreneur. And he says he spent about 3 years building something and eventually realizing, is that really useful? And that's a very shocking moment. And it's getting easier and easier to build. The hard part is, do you have the domain knowledge in that industry or in that area, in that function? Do you have deep enough knowledge of that area to understand the pain and solve that? Often the solution, whatever it is, it's a platform or whatever it is not all that complicated. We make it complicated. The solution is actually simple. The question is, do you understand the pain? And therefore, do you understand deeply the business process, deeply the business there, so that you can position it? That to me is very important. And in understanding
find your blue ocean, right? Like figure out what it is, get it validated, but also make sure there's enough pain there where you're providing a solution.
And don't be in the self-confirmation mode. It's like, hey, I'm building something like this. Do you think it's a good idea? Nobody's going to say no. So you've got to have the knack of asking those questions to bring out the real truth, as opposed to, I'm doing this, please agree with me, please confirm that I'm okay, I'm on the right track. Most of us start doing that. And we are afraid to listen to something that says, I don't think that's really makes sense. We don't want to listen to that. So we steer the conversation to a yes, but that's a false yes.
I get that. Yeah. Don't steer it to a yes. And that's a problem. I mean, I'm guilty of that. I'll get someone pumped up and excited because I'm a salesman by nature. I'm going to get someone excited about the concept. I'll sell them on the vision and and here it is. And then suddenly it's like, I'm getting you to say yes. And most people are just going to appease me and say, wow, that's an amazing idea. And then what I really need is like, no, dude, that's not going to work. And I've made so many mistakes like that. And I think other people should really learn. That's a really good one to take home, because it's not just about asking people, don't ask it in such a way that people feel obligated to say yes and appease you. Ask it openly, honestly, and expect the no. I mean, we do that in sales as well. Like, chase the no, as many no's as you can. Just chase the no, because if you can, you lose fear of it, and then you'll be able to really, you'll be able to up your game. Put it that way, in simple terms. All right. Well, listen, thank you so much for taking the time out to be with me today, Kishore. I appreciate it. I mean, you're building a really cool company there.
Your conversations, your questions were incisive.
Yeah, I mean, I can go all over the place, but I really appreciate you kind of bearing with me, because it's you have these, like, we could have like a quick fire Q&A kind of thing the whole way through, but the reality is I want to learn about your business, but also like the challenges that you face and how you've kind of like built and grown the company, and I feel like we've covered a bit of that, and I think that I'm going to definitely be keeping an eye on your business going forward, because you are right there at the bleeding edge of technology. You're right there. You've picked a very big market to be involved with. And I'd love to be able to have a conversation with you again in the future.
Surely. So, Raj, we'll be in touch.
Absolutely.